What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Pick Swap Podcast. I'm James Brain. I'm here with Sean Bernard. What's up, Shawnee?
Not much. I feel like a ton has happened since the last time we talked, so ready to catch up on that. Sixers are 2-1, not an awful start to the season, so we're getting there, plugging along.
Yeah, could be 3-0. Could definitely
Yeah,
be 3-0. We're coming at you pretty early on Tuesday morning. This is our thing now, man. It's a little wake up call from James and Sean. So we
yeah,
appreciate you
morning
guys
guys.
tuning in with us. Yeah, man. The 9:30 starts, early 9:30 starts. It's kind of nice. It's nice to get ahead of it. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So let's go over the two games that happened while we were away. 4 days can sometimes seem like an eternity. And the Sixers lost to the Nets after holding a lead for the majority of that game, and then they end up handling the Thunder from start to finish. So let's talk about the Nets game. What was your biggest takeaway from that? Leading them the whole game, and then not being able to close it out at the end.
Yeah, I mean, so to start with, like a loss to the Nets this point in the season is not a bad result. Like it's not something that should be worried. And if you just kind of look at it like on the stat sheet like that, they lost, it's not a big deal. But the way they lost that game really hurt. And just to lead that game for 47 minutes and still find a way to lose, and for the offense to go absolutely stagnant for the last 5 minutes, the unwillingness to try and get Joel Embiid, and I know they're trying to protect him, but just to if he's playing, and he should be in at that point. And then the lack of management by Doc Rivers at the end with the no use of challenge. There was a lot that was absolutely terrible. And that last 5 minutes just went as bad as possible. So definitely kind of a deflating loss for something that really shouldn't feel that way. But try not to get too weigh it too heavily for because it's still such a long season.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it was like it happened, and I was like, "Damn, I can't believe that
Yeah.
happened like again." But like I think the biggest thing was for me, like the biggest concern of it was like they really haven't figured it out. Like nothing's changed over the last 4 months. Clearly, in the ideology of the way Doc Rivers is going to handle that type of game. It's so frustrating. It's so infuriating to watch him just like, and then immediately blame other people. Like again, we're
Yeah.
at this part where Doc Rivers immediately was asked a question, and his first response was, "Well, our guy behind the bench." I don't care, man. You're the head
Right.
coach. And at some point in the last 2 minutes there when you're fighting for the game, it's in the last like you've been going back and forth, you haven't scored in a couple minutes, you take a chance. You do. Like I don't really care what your guy says. I don't care if he puts his thumb down. As the head coach, understanding the way that this game is called, you have to take a chance on one of those to at least give yourself a chance to get the ball back. Like I just don't understand like you can say your guy said whatever he said. It doesn't really matter to me. The logic behind just not saying anything at all, not trying to challenge either one of those. What he had three
Mhm.
chances that he
Yeah.
could have, and two of them or all three of them were in the 2 minute report saying that they would have been overturned. Like, then fire your guy or do
Right.
it yourself. Like I just don't understand the logic behind not challenging any of them because that doesn't ever give you a chance. If you don't challenge, you don't have a chance to get it back.
And so the one that went off KD's leg that was I poked out,
Yeah.
like that one I think was a clear recovery and a clear Sixers ball. And like I understand you're risking a timeout for it, but like you don't take those to the grave. Like that's a chance to at least get some sort of control back in the game. And that's what you have the challenges in your pocket for. And it's frustrating. Like we ended up using all of our timeouts, but they were like nonsense. Like the last timeout was used to move the ball up after we were down 5 after the James Harden turnover and free throws. So it's like that was a timeout that was just kind of used so we didn't have one like left after the game, which like it's way more useful to at least have a chance to get the ball back or gain a possession here. And the Danny Green one, I'm not as fired up on about because I do think that was kind of a 50-50 on like live. I certainly thought he was set, and then they gave him the block call. And that would have been a tough one to overturn in my mind, but still certainly worth a chance. And like you have nothing to lose at that point. And then far as Doc, otherwise, like Tyrese Maxey, one of the reasons I was excited for this season is that Tyrese Maxey is not Ben Simmons and that he can be used entirely differently. And then there he is sitting in the dunker spot in crunch time of the game as Joel Embiid is posting up. And it's like put this man in the pick and roll, let him attack the basket. He's different for a reason. Let's see what he can do with this team. Maxey's one of 6 players with 30 plus points on drives this season, which is an absurd 103% points rate off drives, which is up there in the league. The only names ahead of him are John Morant, Malcolm Brogdon, Keon Johnson, SGA, and Kevin Durant. Like, give this guy a chance. Let him see what he can do. Like, don't just the whole fourth quarter offense. First off, it's frustrating to put Embiid up to sub in with 5 minutes left, then a timeout, and you pull him out. And like I understand they're trying to put as little wear and tear on this body as possible, but we lost that game, and in a large way because of like that minute that he was not in and he subbed back in with 4 minutes and 12 seconds to go. That's like 6 points happened there, and it went from a 10-point to a 4-point game like that. And it's another just little management thing, but it's just so like free this guy up. If Tyrese Maxey, we're here. A lot of the early evaluation is find out what there is in Tyrese Maxey and if he can be that guy. So give him the keys and let's actually find out rather than just like hiding him the same way that we did with Ben.
Dude, I'm so done with it. Like, like shout out to our guy Tiago because he did point that out and was like the biggest thing that I saw on
Yeah.
Twitter after that game, and just like literally just looking at that, like it was the whole last part of the fourth quarter though. This is Doc Rivers' fourth quarter offense. Give it to Embiid, let him get double teamed, see what he can do, and like you're putting all the pressure on Embiid or Tobias. Like that's his only game plan. He has no functional offensive scheme that works late in the game. It like obviously you want the ball in Joel's hands or at least Tobias's hands or like even Seth Curry's hands. But like this team is at their best when they're moving the ball and they're getting mismatches. You're not getting a mismatch. You're actually creating one against yourself when you allow your best player to get double teams. Like and you sit your point guard on the dunker spot and like, oh, the logic is he can set a screen for a corner three. Like get that out of here. Get that out of here. Like it doesn't that's not worth it. The when you're weighing those two things, taking Tyrese Maxey out of the play compared to potentially screening for an open three on a skip pass, one, it weighs a lot more than the other. And getting Tyrese Maxey the ball or at least allowing this offense to flow a little bit, like they scored 1 point in the final 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You have to change something. You have to do something. You have to. Like, I don't understand how you can look at that and just like it hasn't changed. Doc Rivers is stuck in his ways as much as someone can be. And like there's no creativity. There's no creativity in that offense. They're lucky that they have one of the most talented scorers in the league right now. In the fourth quarter, like otherwise it's just very, very frustrating to watch. Like it's like banging your head against the wall. It's the same thing over and over and over. And we saw it all last year, and it was actually ended up being the downfall of this team last season.
Sure, schematically, like maybe that's the plan with the skip pass, and that is like an option. But why is 6'3" Tyrese Maxey, who's the only guy on the roster who has a pop to his dribble and a pop with the ball, why is that the guy that's doing that? Like, and honestly, frankly, I don't see a reason for anybody to be doing that at that position in the game either. And Joel Embiid is starting to get some criticism for the lack of production in fourth quarter, which I partially understand. And my huge counter to that is I feel like every fourth quarter play is pretty much give it to Joel and watch. Like I haven't seen anything schemed up to like get this guy a mismatch or free him up underneath. And at the root, he's the best center in the league. He's a big man. Get him on the post. Let him go to work. Like it's so much like giving him on the perimeter and expecting him to create his own shot. Like he's not James Harden. He's not Dame Lillard. Like that's not what he does. We don't want him handling the ball out on the perimeter trying to create something. Like give it to him down low. Get him in the paint. Let him do what he does best. And just like the lack of doing that is so frustrating to me. And just there has to be like schematically something better to free him up and create chances for him.
When was the last time we saw him get a block-to-block screen? Like we've never seen Joel Embiid in the like get the ball to a shooter, and even if it's Maxey on the wing on one side, have Tobias on that same block, have Embiid start on the other block, screen away, and let Embiid get low on and make either them switch onto a smaller defender and let Tobias run to the top of the key, or have his center chase after him and get him into a low post situation. Like he's not getting fouled because they're forcing him into jump shots. So he's not getting to the free throw line. So there's not guaranteed points there. And he's like, he has to take difficult shots. Like sometimes those don't fall. There's games where they do fall. And it's like, wow, Embiid is great. Like you think back to the Heat game where it was Justin Embiid and he scored 40 in the Dakota Mathias game. Like those games where it's like, oh my God, everything's falling and Embiid can do whatever he wants. Those are great. But those are not going to happen every night. Like having an unreliable way to score your points down the stretch is something that the Sixers have struggled with, I feel like, forever. But like at some point, like you have an MVP candidate, you have an all-star caliber player in Tobias Harris, you have 40% three-point shooters, you should be able to figure something out that works consistently or at least gives you options consistently to score in the fourth quarter. And like Maxey is the only player in that starting lineup that can do all three of handle, pass, and shoot, really, like, proficiently. And he's standing on the block, clogging the paint, and trying to create separation for Seth Curry in the corner when he could do that himself, or like at least let Seth Curry and Joel Embiid get in the 2-man game. At
Yeah.
least set up a screen for someone to get open. Like there's no the only thing that I was hopeful about with Doc Rivers coming in was whatever offensive scheme that he was going to have in place, whatever off ball, like, cause it felt like before it was only the isolation game and you look to the other side of the floor and no one's moving. And now it's all great and dandy during the game. But then the last 5 minutes, he just sits around like he just has their guy sits around. It just makes no sense to me. I'm
Yeah.
very, very fed up with it. And I don't know what the solution is.
Yeah. And my last real takeaway from the Nets game is because I just don't want to leave him victimless is Danny Green, man.
Bro.
Like 2 air balls in the final crunch time of that game, and one of them a heat check with like 15 seconds left on the shot clock. Like you're clearly cold and you're throwing this up with all this time left, and just like I I mean, again, I'm not fully worried because I think when it comes down to it in playoff, like everything will settle itself out. But just the decision making to just jack that up when well, clearly nothing's falling. We haven't scored in 5 minutes, and you're still just throwing these up is absurd to me.
Wow, dude, that was a that was so I had to watch that game in pieces, and then I rewatched.
Mhm.
Especially I rewatched the fourth quarter to get like the whole like grip of it. But like the one of the stretches that I did catch was the Danny Green back to back air ball.
Yeah,
Nets
absurd.
turn it over, bring it back,
Another
air
one.
ball. And I'm like, you airballed the first one, and then you immediately got like redeemed by the
Yeah, you're
fact that
thinking
they
like,
turned the
"I'm
ball
hot
over.
right now. Like, this is my shot." Like,
Bring it up, slow it down, and
yeah.
get a bucket. Like he catches it, and it wasn't open. Like it
No,
wasn't
no.
like it was open. Like
It literally was a heat check coming off an air ball.
yeah, it was like if he had just made 3 in a row, like that's the shot you expect him to take. And yeah, man, I don't know what that was. I really don't.
Mhm.
I was like, the only thing you can do at that point is kind of just like laugh to yourself, like, what is this guy doing? What made him think that that was a good shot? For a vet too, like if that was Furkan, I would have been like, oh well, it's Furk.
Mhm.
But it's Danny Green, like he should know better than that. Like,
Yeah, frankly, I would have rather it have been Franklin given
me
the
too.
how he's looked and how everything, but, I
Yeah.
I think
So
that's pretty much all I have on the Nets. I wanna hear your
yeah,
takeaways on the Thunder game.
yeah, man. I don't know. The Sixers have had 2 of those games, like the Thunder and the Pelicans games. When they're in those cities, they feel like, very much pregame nap type games. Like you just like you feel like you're falling asleep like part of the way through that.
Mhm.
The Embiid block, oof,
Oh my
man,
gosh.
what a
Yeah.
play. But they looked good. Seth Curry is great, man. I
Yeah.
wrote an article on Seth yesterday. He was my Sixer of the week. So
Deservingly so.
they've been it feels like that's what they have to do though. Someone has to have one of those nights right now to get like moving, which is not a great sign. But the Thunder are a bad team. The Sixers should beat them every night of the week, and you got decent play from a lot of like role player guys. And dude, I am a little bit concerned about Joel
Yeah.
in a few ways, but overall, it was one of those games where just like I'm happy that they just got out of there like unscathed. You should win that game, so a win doesn't feel like enough. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway from that is simply I can't believe Joel Embiid played in that game. And we've seen
Yeah.
this guy through the first 2 games be grabbing at his knee, be like clearly in pain, clearly not 100%, not moving the way he usually does. And to be fair, he looked relatively healthy during that game. That Thunder game is probably the best I've seen him move this season. But like, first off, we're 3 games in this year and we're already dealing with this. We've had a whole offseason. I hope he did his treatment. I hope he did everything possible. I'm not doubting that he put the work in, did whatever. But like this cannot be in every like there comes a point where and I love Joel with all my heart, but like there's a point where you can't be like awesome when you're healthy and like that's what's holding you back. Like there's a part of like that goes into it. Like think about guys like LeBron and the guys that put so much work into their body to keeping themselves healthy. And I understand Joel is 7 feet tall and 285 pounds, and there's just a lot of wear and tear on him. But like we this can't be a season long thing. And like I mean, it's so frustrating. The Sixers should be beating the Thunder with or without Joel Embiid. And I think Andre Drummond not being able to play went into the decision to allow Joel to play, which is absolutely wrong in my mind. And that just frankly shouldn't matter. And like the priority must remain just keeping this guy healthy, and for him to play in that, and then for Joel to go with 1:20 left and trying to block a shot on Josh Giddey and falling awkwardly and folding like a table. Like, dude, like have some common sense to be like, I should not be doing like we're up 13 points with 1:20 left, and you're jumping out the gym to block a shot.
Why
And
is he even in the game?
right. He first off, he shouldn't be in the game. And second off, why in the world are you going up for that? Like, what is the benefit there? Like, I understand, great, a block shot. He got called for a foul, which it honestly probably shouldn't have. But like just the risk reward here from both the Sixers and Joel's perspective is insane to me.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Dude, but again, like I don't and it's hard to know who's making that decision. Obviously, Joel's a part of that. But I feel like if you're like if you're Doc or the Sixers coaching staff, you just be like, you know what, Joel? Yeah, we're in Oklahoma City tonight.
Right. We should not need you to beat this team.
Like, let's sit you down and dude, and God forbid they lose that game, right? Like, who gives a shit, bro?
Mm-hmm.
It's game 3. Like, who gives a shit? When it's game 3 in round 2 of the playoffs, we're gonna want you.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna want you there. And if you can't make it there because you're playing in game 3 of the regular season, then it's worthless. This is all worthless. It doesn't mean anything to anyone if you can't be there, at that time. And like I thought that was something that they were coming around on. Like through last year, and we were like kind of going into this year, we're like, we should probably not see him play as much because like we don't care about the number 1 seed, we don't care about that, blah blah blah. Like I thought that was something that they were kind of growing towards, but it seems like they're, dude, and like again, at some point you have to see what these other guys are made of. Like everyone talks about how much they love Paul Reed. They run away from that guy like he's the plague.
Yeah.
Like they
Really don't wanna
avoid
play
his
him.
playing minutes all the time. Like
Still
just do
firmly in
it.
the mud.
Yeah. Like just give him minutes. We don't see what he's like in a real game. You can like if he's going up against Joel Embiid and Andre Drummond in practice, and even if he's not looking great, that's still a damn good test about what
Mhm.
he's going to look like the rest like against someone else, against Kenrich Williams. Like you can't play him against Kenrich Williams. Like you can't play him against the like that type of player. Like what is going to happen? What's the worst thing? I thought he looked great when he played. I thought Paul Reed actually looked like he's not going to do anything like amazing, but you don't ask him to. He's a ferocious rebounder. He's a high effort player, and he's gonna give you everything he has every minute that he's out there. In a game like that, sometimes in a game in Oklahoma City on a freaking Sunday night, that's all it takes to win.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand why you run away from that. Like the philosophy, and maybe I'm overthinking it, or maybe I'm kind of giving myself too much credit here, but the coaching philosophy that's been like shown thus far from Doc Rivers and this coaching staff seems backwards in a lot of ways, and maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I don't think there's been and I know the NBA hates that this has kind of been the transition, but like
Whatever.
the regular season is in a lot of ways just for trying things, development, getting guys healthy. Like it's come playoffs where we should be like locked in on rosters and rotations and stuff. Like who cares? Like give him a shot. Like we want to see what all these guys have at this point. And again, like the Thunder are very likely going to be in the running for the number 1 pick by the end of this year. Like they're not a good team yet, and that's just the stage of the franchise they're in. Give Paul Reed some run. Let's see what this guy has. He's pure chaos
Yeah.
out there, but it's in a way that I love, in a way that like I think is worth seeing at least what's there. And just like from what I really care about is come playoff time, like we need that switchability, that like he has something, that a skill set that like the Sixers need. And I don't necessarily know he's going to be ready by then, but like I know for sure he won't if he's not getting the chances now. And like there's no hurt in at least just like if he goes out there and fails against the Thunder, like that's fine. Like that's not that big of a deal. And at least we know, but instead we're still sitting kind of wondering what this guy has. And I'm worried that's going to be the case all season.
Like genuinely, here's an actual question for you, because I'm just now thinking about it. You think if the Sixers don't get the COVID part of last year where they played the Nuggets with 7 players, you think if that doesn't happen, we're watching Tyrese Maxey play right now? Like, or that he would have played throughout last season? Like, I genuinely do
Yeah.
not know that Doc Rivers would have ever given him or Isaiah Joe or any of these younger guys a chance had it not been for the fact that they had to play against the Nuggets in that 7 games or in that stretch where there weren't like a lot of guys were out.
Yeah.
And
No.
that's stupid. That's stupid. Every other team does that. Every other team allows their players to grow and make mistakes and do things that they have to do to get through this. And Isaiah Joe hasn't looked good. But the second he doesn't look good, gone.
Yeah. And he
For
hasn't.
what?
He hasn't.
He hasn't. He hasn't. But like I think that there's like obviously Maxey has now carved out a spot for himself, but almost just by default.
Right.
And now like Paul Reed is just like fighting for his life to even get a chance. And like I just don't I really don't understand it. And I mean maybe we're way higher on Paul Reed than Doc Rivers is, or
Pretty
maybe
likely
we're
is the
yeah
case.
yeah
But
definitely
also
likely is the case.
with the Maxi thing, like if Simmons is here, I don't know what Maxi's role exactly
Yeah.
looks like. Like there's a chance this guy's not as buried as last year because there has to be some sort of progression. But I definitely don't think he's leading the team in minutes right now, which definitely would not be the case if Ben Simmons is on the team. And I'm happy he is. I'm happy he's getting the chances and that he deserves it. And I again
He's
just
been great.
yeah, just let's see what this guy had. And they're he had a couple step back there. Just the willingness. There's things that he does that I'm so excited about, and I'm
Yeah.
very confident he will be like what we need. He's not there yet, and I don't think he's going to be there by the end of this year. Like he's not uh, a starting point guard on a championship team yet, but he's 20 years old. Like there's a lot to love here, and I love everything I've seen so far. I want to dive into Joel a little more specifically. So Embiid stats on the air: 29.7 minutes per game, 21 points, 7.7 rebounds, 5 assists, which is higher than Jokic, by the way. 2.7 blocks, 1.3 steals, 1.7 turnovers. 22 of 47 from the field, 6 of 13 from 3, and 13 for 18 from free throws. So what have your biggest takeaways have been on Joel so far this season?
I mean, he's relying heavily on the jumper.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, we talked about early on after game 1, like it's probably part of the game plan is to like develop that part of his game and not have to do like all the dirty work down low, especially early on.
Mm-hmm.
But for like first of all, I think I'm trying really hard not to like even think about the stats at all until we get like a tangible way into the season. Like I saw someone bring up Dame's stats today, and someone on Twitter was like, "I guarantee he gets back to his normal self." It's like no shit, dude. Like
Yeah.
these historically great players are going to end up like still being very good throughout the year. Like Embiid is still going to put up great numbers. Um, but yeah, the 3-point numbers are great. I think that he's like not only taking very good shots from 3, he's also like just looked very comfortable from out there.
Pulling up.
And yeah, I think he's been like I think that's probably the biggest takeaway, I guess, is just the fact that like not only is he taking a lot of threes, he's taking smart shots, and he's like adding another element to this offense that they really didn't have before. Like obviously he shot threes before and he shot really well last year, but like now it seems like if he sees a look that he likes from 3, like he's not like it doesn't have to be a specific situation for him to take that. I think he's so comfortable and confident in that shot that that's just like another mid-range for him. I think he's ready to take that leap, and that's a scary thought for the rest of the league.
Yeah. But his passing, I want to shout
Yeah.
out. Certainly a ton of growth in that. He's making some really good reads out of that. I hate that. I mean, this is by default, and this won't be fixed until the Simmons trade is settled or whatever ends up happening. But he's pretty much playing point center right now, which is pretty
Yeah.
crazy. And uh, 5 assists per game would be the highest of his career. He's been cutting out turnovers, been way smarter with that. So a lot of growth in that area. My biggest criticism of Embiid so far is just like the post up seems to be disappearing too much from his game. And I specifically see this with the free throw attempts. He averaged 10.7 free throw attempts last year, which was a career high from him. And I don't necessarily expect him to ever reach that again, especially with the new league rules. And as much as I love Joel, like that certainly he was a guy that benefited from the reach in and extra getting to the line. But he's down to 6.0 free throw attempts per game, which is almost half of what he had last year. And just there one of the biggest things that's a weapon in his game is what a good free throw shooter he is. And just those are free points when he gets to the line, which isn't the case for a lot of big men. So just there has to be like he has to be willing to bang on the block a little more. And I think some of this is tied to his health. And if the knee is not quite there, that he's probably not as willing to. And I definitely think that's all connected. But that the jumper needs to be there because it's open up from the post. And I think it's kind of the opposite right now. I think he's leaning on the jumper a little too heavily. And again, maybe this is just the start of the season. By the time we get toward the playoffs, like that's when he'll go back to it. But I would like to see a little more focus on just being a big man.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that's probably the biggest negative takeaway is just like he's forcing himself into tough shots a lot. I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of the like
The
anytime
fadeaway.
the like I've seen it a lot, and like he makes these shots, which is the tough part
Mm-hmm.
because like he's a good shot maker, like even on bad shots. But like when he's doubled sometimes you just see him take that like one dribble to the right and pull up.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know that you're comfortable taking that shot. I know you practice that, but like, it's just not a highly efficient shot. Like, it's just not something that's going to be reliable all the time, and it's gonna be a variable like game to game, kind of what I mentioned earlier. So yeah, no, I definitely agree. He's been like Joel's been Joel, and I think the fact that he literally has like 10 sets of eyes on him at all
Mhm.
time, like on the floor, like anything that happens in the Sixers offense when he's on the floor goes through him, which is a burden. But
Yeah.
he's still been able to produce in different ways, and whether that's spacing the floor, facilitating the basketball while also still scoring. I think it's impressive, but I think that there's definitely still room to like improve throughout this season, and it's something I assume will
Yeah.
continue to improve. I don't expect him to like. I think he'll score upwards of what he did last year. Once they figure it all out, depending on like what happens with Ben.
Mhm.
But defensively, he's been amazing as well.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, I've there's a lot that I've kind of nitpicked in his game that I'm not thrilled with so far. But what's holding me from getting overly critical of him is just like this guy has so much responsibility on his plate right now, and he's done a great job anchoring the defense. He talked about last year how Defensive Player of the Year was a goal of his. I think that's on the table for this year if he keeps it up, and just the rim protection he showed, the 1.3 steals and 2.7 blocks per game is pretty crazy. And just
Yeah.
like and it's they're noticeable too. Like the block against the Thunder we talked about earlier, but just like that's a volleyball spike back, and just like the way Rudy Gobert alters the game just by the way Jazz funnel in and force him to block shots and like that. Like Joel Embiid is well capable of doing all of that, and I mean I think the Defensive Player of the Year is on the table for him if he keeps this up. So defensively, I really don't have a lot of complaints in his game, but I mean this guy, we have to get him help offensively, and just perimeter creation is the number one thing. And some of that is, again, not to shift back to Doc Rivers because we kind of had that talk already, but like just stop putting so much responsibility on it. Like let the offense run through other guys at times, and don't be so dead set on Joel being the only guy that can do something
Yeah, like let him benefit from good
from
ball
others.
movement
Yeah.
and drives and attacks. Like I feel like so this is also like another theory I have about Doc, and not to go back to it too much, but like he's only ever had teams with like studs, like with
Yeah.
guys that take the ball and say, I'm gonna get this done. And like he's made a career off of that. The thing I don't like about Doc is the fact that like he's never been able to. I don't know if I want to say ever, but like since he's been here, there hasn't been like perimeter creation by a committee. Like I want to see him use the backcourt the way that NFL offensive uses like a running back by committee. If you have three guys that do the job of one but are specified for each situation, then do that. If you want to run pick and rolls, use Tyrese Maxey. If you want to get dribble handoffs and get some shots from three, use Seth Curry. If you want to do driving kicks, use Danny Green. Use Tobias Harris for all that matter. Like it seems like they're just trying to get stuck in like one way, and this is another Doc Rivers thing. Like I think he does that, but there's no like one answer to it. Like there's no one way to create from the perimeter. There's like
Mhm.
8 different ways. So let different guys do different things, and like just let that be it. Don't try to force anyone into a strict offense or a strict set. Like you don't have to get the ball to Joel Embiid in the post before anything else happens. You don't have to get it to him in the mid range or on the wing. Like, and it seems like that's what they're doing. And obviously, Joel is their best player by like a large margin right now. But like, you have to let him like be the product of your offense as well as like being the center point, because I think there's only one side of it right now, not the other.
Yeah, definitely. And then my last basketball take here is I think I'm in on point guard Frick. I think I'm all
I
about it.
love it.
He's been much more developed in the reads than I expected. His ability to shoot over screens and shoot whenever there's a sagging off is for sure an asset. And like pick and roll, like I've been very impressed with the reads he's made, both passing wise, when his decisions when to shoot, and he's just been awesome so far this year. So super outplaying his contract, and he's been an asset to the team so far.
Dude, I am over the moon about point guard for the one thing I will say, they need a guy that can handle the ball in that second unit. Like the minute that Lou Dort decided he wanted Furkan to stop bringing the ball up the court was when he started full court pressing him and like making him turn and make dribble moves. And there was like 2 or 3 possessions where like it got super hectic
Yeah.
and he was struggling a little bit once he got pressured. Um, and honestly, I think that's just because of how tall he is. Like, he can't get the ball from the ground back into his hands fast enough to make the moves. But, dude, he's been great facilitating. Skip like live ball skip passes have been great. The fact that he is a threat from three makes the Drummond pick and roll like lethal. And Drummond's ability to do more than Dwight Howard and just like the short roll game with Andre Drummond is a little bit more effective than it was with Dwight Howard because he can float the ball, he can make an extra pass, and then like Niang's just shooting ability, like that second unit looks pretty good. I think Seibel has been uh, kind of a disappointment thus far, a little bit.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think Furkan has been fantastic, and I'm super happy that he's getting the chance to do this. And he's also fun in the
Yeah, oh
fact
yeah.
that like anytime he does something good, it's like this is amazing. I love this so much.
Yeah, I think Joel loves it too, which I think is
Yeah.
cool. He just seems genuinely happy when Frick succeeds, which is awesome. And then, so I guess that's pretty much covers our on-court Sixers stuff. There's been a lot that's happened with the Ben Simmons stuff since last time we talked. So, immediate, pretty much later in the day after we recorded, so Daryl Morey goes on 97.5, which first off, just insane that a
Why?
GM is doing this. And I mean, there was certainly a purpose in it. And he said he talks about how this could take 4 years. I mean, talks about how it could take 4 years, that he's not willing to trade Simmons for role players. And if they can get a quote difference maker, then the deal will be done. I mean, this was a message to Simmons. This was a message to other GMs around the league. This was a message to Clutch, to Rich Paul, to Simmons camp. So there's a
To
lot
Philadelphia?
to Philadelphia. Yeah. And bottom line is it worked. Ben Simmons shows up the next day. I mean, uh, he's not currently away from the team with some mental issues and back issues and whatever else. But what are your thoughts on, I guess, just all the developments?
Yeah. What a weird, what an unbelievable
So strange.
situation that we're
Yeah.
involved in, man, and we can never escape it. It's been when it wasn't Ben, it was something else, but like now it's just been constantly Ben. I think the strides that they took just from the last time we recorded until today have been like the most progress we've seen in
Mhm,
terms of
absolutely.
getting back like to a reunion. Um, and again, I think if the plan is ultimately like let's get you back in here, we just need to try to win. And like if you're winning and we're playing and people forget about this, later down the road, something's going to open up. Someone's going to ask for you. Someone's going to pay the right price. If that's ultimately the goal, then he should be willing to just come back and play. And maybe that's what's been communicated to him. Maybe that's what's been like kind of the compromise that they're coming to. But I think him not only talking to Daryl and Doc and EB, but also talking to Joel and the team was like as stupid as that sounds, like it was a super necessary part of all this, and I think it was the only time that we've seen any sort of like redeeming quality from Ben over the last like month or so. So that was a great step. The fact that he got open support from Joel on Friday night and like towards the fans, it just shows how great of a leader Joel Embiid is and how like genuine of a person that he is. And Tobias sticking up for him as well. Maxi, Matisse, all kind of coming to his aid when defending his mental health struggles. So I guess overall, I'm feeling better about it now than I did when we recorded last time. And if he is able to come back and play, then let's get to work. And I'm ready to kind of just put this behind us right now. And there's basketball to be played. You know, I don't really care
Mhm.
about the storylines anymore. Like, let's go win basketball games. Him being around would probably like ease up on Joel Embiid and like allow them to give him more rest days or like be more open to keeping him off the floor at certain times. So I think it can only be a positive from here if he comes back. But I guess that's how I feel. I don't know how to like articulate it too well right now.
Yeah, and Sixers have also stopped fining him. I forgot to mention that,
True.
which is certainly a big deal. So first off, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah.
Uh, on the mental health front, like, I mean, on a human being level, I feel very bad for Ben Simmons in that. Just think about like as much as like we've drug him through the mud for acting like a prima donna and everything, and like he for sure has not acted in the right here, but this guy has been like public enemy number one for the whole city for this whole offseason. This guy's been dragged everywhere online, on Twitter, on anywhere you look, there's the Ben Simmons jokes, the memes, the everything, and like
Yeah.
that weighs a toll on somebody. And just he obviously is not happy here. The Sixers, it seems like I mean, the divorce seems in the best interest for everyone, and it's been that way all off season, everything. I also think I was wrong in the take that it was a good thing for him to come back to the team. I think Ben Simmons' value is Ben Simmons' value, whether he is with the Sixers, whether he is sitting at home, whether whatever. I mean, I still don't like. Again, Ben Simmons is not innocent in this. Like, there's certainly been things that have been handled the wrong way. Uh, I do hate the Shams report when he came in the locker room when he addressed the team. Which, first off, it's crazy. That's the first time that he had really talked to the team, and like that again, you're not in the right for that. He also didn't answer Embiid's question when Embiid specifically asked, "Why do you want to be traded?" And he said that he's just going through some mental stuff that he isn't ready to play basketball. Which, like, sure, I understand that. That also doesn't answer the question. Like, that's still the question is still there. I think Morey is a lot of what he's not saying here, and Morey's been just about as honest as he can be in the situation, and
Yeah.
which is kind of refreshing when like even sitting on it. But like the Sixers just have to sit back and wait. Like, I don't think Simmons' value can get any lower from a trade aspect, whether he's playing or not playing. Uh, he is who he is at this point, and like again, I don't think that changes. And a lot of it is just waiting for things to unfold, whether it be teams like shifting where they're looking for this year, whether they're looking to rebuild, retool, whatever, if guys get hurt, if they need a replacement. So a lot of it is just letting the market figure itself out. And from that aspect, I don't think the Sixers need to be in a rush to get this guy back. So let Simmons stay away from the team. Let him do whatever he needs to do, talk to whoever he needs to talk to. And from what Neubeck reported, Kyle Neubeck, shout out, like it seems like the Sixers have actively tried to get this guy some sort of, whether it will be with a sports psychologist or whatever, like this is not a new thing that they're trying to get him some sort of mental health help, which is awesome from the Sixers perspective. And I love to hear that. But like this is a complex situation that there's a lot going on. And I think like it works both ways, I think, to keep him away, let him take care of his personal stuff. And I don't think that hurts the team from a market or value aspect.
No, I don't think so either. I think it's tough right now, like you said, that there's so much going on. This is
Mhm.
kind of the first time it's been tranquil though. Like this is the first time I feel like since all of this news came out that like we've had a few days where it's been a little bit quiet around this team, and obviously there's a lot of other stuff going on now. Like there's actually basketball going on, and people can talk about other stuff other than like
Yeah.
the rift between this relationship. But I want to touch on something really quick. Um, like there's a lot of people out there right now that are questioning the validity of Ben and the issues that he's claiming that he's going through. And I just want to like personally say how like dangerous and irresponsible it is for people, specifically large personalities in Philadelphia media, to be going out of their way to invalidate how someone feels in a situation like this when they can clearly not relate by any means. And like obviously, like you said, he has done so much wrong. Like leading up to this, he's handled it in a poor way. His management has handled it in a poor way. But that doesn't mean that he's not a human. At the end of the day, that doesn't mean
For
that
sure.
he's not like imagine being an athlete in this city going through what he just went through, regardless of whose fault it was, and trying to step on the Wells Fargo Center floor in front of 20,000 people that like undoubtedly hate your guts,
Mhm.
people that have cut your name out of their jerseys, people that are chanting things like think about being him and seeing a Flyers game clip where people in Flyers jerseys are chanting F Ben Simmons, people at the Eagles game, people at Chiggy's and Pete's, like people at like all over the city are going out of their way to start these like that has to be a daunting thing anyway. On top of the fact that like clearly he's just been like he has a history of this. He has a history of mental health struggles. He's talked about it before. He's been like I think it's just really stupid and unfair and dangerous. And like as a like person that's dealt with that, as a person that knows people that have dealt with that, like as like and we see the way that the world is shifting right now, and like Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan have been great, and Simone Biles, like I can't wait for that crop of people, the older generation of people that just like deny that as a reason to like not feel ready to play, to just be gone from the media and be gone from the Philadelphia media specifically, because I think that's just like I think that's really bad and something that's will never ever be good for the game of basketball, for sports in general. I guess that's just my take on it because
Yeah.
I had like a whole conversation. I wrote an article about it, and I just like I think that's like the worst case scenario because this isn't an isolated incident with Ben, and it's not an isolated incident in the sports world. Like people go through this. These are human beings that are doing this. So I think it's like a pretty terrible take to just say openly without any real like credible source that Ben is faking a mental health issue.
Yeah, it's tough because these are shoes that none of us can put ourselves in. Like, we can't wrap our mind around an entire city villainizing you, an entire
Yeah.
fan base just scapegoating you as the sole issue for the Sixers, which at the bottom line, he's not. Like, there's a lot more
Yeah.
issues than just Ben Simmons going on here. But there still has to be some sort of solution to this. And like
Yeah.
I'm not he certainly at this point, priority number one for everyone should be Ben gets his mentals where he needs to be. Ben gets everything settled. And Tobias has been a very awesome about the way he's talked about things with like Ben being a human being first, that everybody being a human being first, all these athletes that even though they are these superheroes jumping 12 feet in the air and everything, like they still have to deal with the same stuff that every one of us does on a daily basis. And from a I mean, again, this issue is so layered and so complicated for how things are like finally going to be settled. I mean, from Ben's perspective, like I don't think he's ever going to be happy here in Philly again. And I don't know if getting him back on the court is like when realistically that can come into play. But like Morey still cannot like this is going to drag out, and that Morey cannot just like ship him off to make him feel better either. Like there
Yeah.
has to be a win for everybody here, and I don't know. It's difficult getting him to handle this. If he comes back in a clean slate, I definitely think that's helping. And if this was what was going on all along with Ben, I definitely think it would have helped from the beginning if this was what he talked about. And this did not need to be brought up to any of us. This could have been directly talked to with the team, Joel Embiid, Tobias, and like just look, guys, like I'm just don't have it right now. I don't know what's going on, figuring my stuff out. If that was dealt with internally like that, I think a lot of stuff is like we're in a better spot right now.
Yeah.
But again, it's difficult to talk about, so it's not like I understand, but I mean, it's just there's a lot going on in this, a lot of moving parts, and just like I think just time is at everyone's benefit.
Yeah, and like you said, I think if there is a correct or a reasonable chance for them to move on, I think both sides would be like happy to. I think
Mhm.
um like again, we've kind of come to the conclusion that like Ben probably doesn't want to be here, probably doesn't ever really want to play here again. But if he can kind of strap up his boots, get his head right, like I think at this point, I think the biggest thing was, and again, this is speculation, it's hard to tell. But like Maury came out and was like, basically, dude, like we're not trading you. Like
Yeah.
right now, it's not gonna happen. So either like you're either gonna get fined for the next 4 years until a deal comes along, which who knows when that'll be. Like if it's not by the end of the trade deadline, like gotta wait the rest of the season. Uh, we're better with you. You're better with us than sitting on your couch. So like I think like as much as it like is sounds weird, like the best way to get through this is to just like kind of face it head on right now. Start clean, get settled back in, kind of do what he should have done in like August, and kind of just like strap in with the fact that like I'm probably not going to be moved this year. Like let's just move on and play basketball this year. Like he doesn't have to love the guys in the locker room. He doesn't have to love the environment. He doesn't have to love it because he's probably not going to. I don't know if he ever really did. It's hard to tell.
Hmm.
But like, yeah, like you said, I think it's just at this point, the best case scenario for everyone is work through this, get him back with the team in the gym once he's ready, and just play basketball. And until there's another outlet, until there's another way to resolve all of these issues, the best case scenario for everyone is he's going to help you win basketball games at the end of the day. And while he might not be the perfect player, paying him 30 million to not be around is a lot better for him. Is for the Sixers is a lot better for him to be on the floor with them. Like he is an all-star player. He's a defensive player of the year candidate. Like having him on the floor is always ultimately better than him not being on the floor or available to be on the floor for you. So I'm happy it seems like it's at least, like, starting to come to an end, I guess, or starting to come to, like, some sort of short-term resolution to a degree.
Yeah, this definitely feels like, I guess, the best relationships have been in a while. So
Yeah.
again, that's progress at least. How long do you think this will drag on? I mean, I don't think it goes 4 years, but what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah, I don't see him getting traded this year. Like, at this point, I honestly don't like, I think that the communication has been like, "You're not going anywhere. Like,
Yeah,
we're running this back this year. You're not going anywhere, pal." So, like, you know, what however much that, like, affects you mentally, like, go home, digest this, but be prepared to when you come back, like, be prepared to be here, at least until June, and,
mhm.
you know, maybe we'll figure it out then, maybe someone will want out, maybe there's a package available, but, yeah, I honestly don't see him getting traded this year, and, like, I don't know that that was like, genuinely, I don't think that was ever in the Sixers' plans, was to trade him this year.
It's tough. I'm still in the progress of writing this article, which should be done today, but just kind of everything Maury said. And I mean, first off, like you can only make this trade once. You can
Yep.
only do this one time. So if you mess it up, like you don't get a redo on it. There is a disconnect between the like we're in Joel's prime, like we're gonna sit this guy unless we get the proper return. But now we're getting nothing for while we're in Joel's prime and window to win. So there is kind of like it doesn't all connect. But I mean, Maury, like this is his best asset to flip it for a championship team. And I really do genuinely believe the core of what Maury's doing is just his obsession with whatever gives the Sixers the best chance to win a championship, which is
Yeah.
absolutely his job and absolutely the right thing to do. And continuing to sit on Simmons and just allow, I guess, the market to catch up to what the Sixers needed to me is like I think what's going to continue to happen. And frankly, like I mean, I don't think this wraps up anytime soon. I still think there's a chance like a deal presents itself like before the All-Star, I mean before the trade deadline. And I'm not ruling it 100% out that it doesn't happen this year because I just like I can't see a kumbaya moment of him coming back and being happy here. And there is to me some weight in that like I think the Sixers have done an excellent job not allowing it to be a distraction and for the team to continue focusing on basketball. But there has to come a point where, like, if he's here and not happy, like post deadline or post whatever, like, then this is a wasted year.
Yeah. No, I 100%, but, like, again, I think that's what's been communicated to him is, like, you know, this is what's gonna happen. This is where we are. And Maury has been, I think, I really wonder. I'm very genuinely curious about the way that he is in real life. Like, I wonder what a conversation with him looks like between like any of the players and him. And like, obviously, you know, him and Embiid are close.
Hmm.
But like, I can only just imagine him kind of being like very smug and like, you know, I basically have the power here, so like, you're not gonna tell me what to do.
Yeah, not
And
the
him
right guy
kind
to
of
mess with.
no, and like he is the smartest guy in the room probably most of the time. So it's hard to like you can't swindle this guy. You're not gonna pull one over on him. And I think had it been a different front office, we're probably looking at like a Ben for whoever trade and probably not too happy with it right now. But
Yeah,
luckily we're in pretty good hands. And um I think at the end of the day, like, and the cliche that like winning fixes everything. I don't know that winning that like unless they actually like end the year with a ring on their finger, I don't know that it's gonna fix anything.
yeah, I doubt it.
Um, like so, I think I don't know. I don't know what like Maury has every single day has like reiterated like I want to win a championship. I don't really care what I have to do that. I'll do literally whatever it takes. It doesn't matter to me, which is great to hear. But like I don't, I'm struggling to see right now what the path to that like to said championship is. It's going to be a difficult and windy road, but luckily like we're here with you the entire way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this isn't going to be a quick fix, and it kind of I feel it sucks that we kind of have like two paths we're following this season with like the actual on court Sixers and the
Yeah.
Simmons drama. Like it's like a basketball season and a soap opera all in one. So
Yeah.
I guess I mean we're following along both sides and seeing what's develop, and hopefully at some point they tie together. So I guess that's where we're at.
Yeah, and I'm assuming eventually they will. Like, at this
Mhm.
point, it's gonna have to happen, and whether it's, within the next couple weeks, I'm assuming, like, before the end of November, like, how long is he, gonna take? Who knows? I'm hoping that he's like we said, we 100% give our, like, support for him, and hopefully that he's doing well, or getting himself well, and that's important to start, and then, like, let's come back and let's just end all the talking and, what the foundation is laid. If we get an offer, you're gone. We're both happy. We can start over. We can do whatever. If it doesn't happen, we're just here to win basketball games. We're just here to do what's best for the team, what's best for the Sixers. And I think that's a good way to like just settle in and move on from there. And I think it's probably the only realistic way to get through this. So we'll definitely be keeping you updated. We're gonna keep doing these early time starts, which I think I actually enjoy.
Yeah.
Is the getting ahead of it, getting out in front.
Mm.
So you can follow Sean at Sean_Bernard1. Follow me at JSBrand17. Follow the pod at PickSwapPod. Check us out on YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, all that good stuff. Check out our airspace too. We're gonna
Mhm.
continue doing that. Pre-game talks. We need a little bit more interactions from you guys. So let's keep talking, having some chats. And we'll definitely be keeping in touch. So we appreciate you guys for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys soon.